Hi, Kaylee. Welcome to the second installation of Champion Chats by the Well Winner. We're so excited to have you as our second and next amazing guest. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me and for asking me to be a part of it.
No problem. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time. I'm excited to hear what you've been up to. How are you? How's COVID situation in Australia? I mean, it could be completely different from what's happening over here.
Yeah, it's a really, really crazy time to be alive, I guess you can say. COVID's just been mental. I know everyone's kind of cooped up in their houses, and it has been different for people all over the world. I think Australia is kind of coping with it as well as you can be coping with it at this point in time. We've been lucky to not have as many cases as some of the other places around the world have had, and we kind of look to be coming out the other side of it a little bit, although it's going to be a very long time before we actually go back to normal. They're looking to ease restrictions a little bit in Australia, which is kind of exciting, but it's also the most important thing, that everyone's health is,
Yeah, of course.
important.
What's the extent of your quarantine over there, or your restrictions?
Well, I was kind of unlucky in the sense that I personally came back from overseas during the time period in which it really started to explode. So I actually spent 2 weeks in quarantine. I got tested. Luckily, I was negative.
Wow. Oh, gosh.
But that was a bit of that was a crazy experience. So I've actually been in quarantine for, I think it's 2 months next week. So we've kind of been on lockdown for a long period of time. We're not allowed to go out pretty much at all apart from essential services. Yeah, so
I'm the same way. I mean, New York City is hit the hardest on this side of the world, so I'm on day 55 or something. I don't even know anymore. I can't keep track.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think it's kind of looking in a positive direction. But I think the most important thing is just keeping those cases down as we kind of do come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm so happy to have this conversation with you today. As a refresher, the Well Winner created Champion Chats to provide a window into short, informal conversations on some big topics with some heavy hitters like yourself. Though we don't exclusively look to trophies as the marker of a champion, I do like to start off the conversation honoring the titles that each guest has earned, because they're certainly something to be proud of. So, Kaylee, what are some of the titles that you have under your belt?
So I won the World Championships in 2014, which was definitely the highlight of my career. That was amazing. I won 2 North American national titles and several Australian and state championships, and I won the All Islands.
There you go. You've done a lot.
Lifetime ago.
I know, right? Same with me. I mean, oh God, I feel like I retired a decade ago, but it's not been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if our followers didn't already know this about you or haven't picked up on it from our different accents, you live in Australia. So growing up in Australia, how did you get into the world of Irish dance? And because I already know this fact about you, what is it like having your mom as your dance teacher?
So I got into Irish dancing when I was 3 years old. My mum did Irish dancing, and she was the first Australian to win the World Championships. So I guess you can say that I was kind of born into it. But what actually happened was we were meant to go to Scotland for a wedding, and my mum got really unwell because she was pregnant with my brother. And she felt so bad because I was meant to be the flower girl and we couldn't go. And she said, "Oh, you can have anything you want. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to start Irish dancing." And she was like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yep, that's what I want to do." She's like, "Oh no, what have I got myself into it?" And I guess the rest was kind of history. So from there, I actually didn't dance with my mum to begin with. So my mum, she decided that she wanted to keep that mother-daughter relationship without the pressure of being my coach as well.
Yeah.
And I think that I was really lucky in that sense, because I did get my mum with the insights that she had with Irish dancing. So I trained under Geraldine French until I was 18 years old. And then when I was 18, she retired and moved back to America. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, she was like my mum, and I didn't know what to do. And my mum was like, "I'm going to take over teaching you until the Worlds," because it was September. And she said, "Well, let's finish out the year. I'll teach you and then we'll take it from there." I was like, "Yeah, okay, great. No worries." And then I got second at the Worlds, and she was like,
This is working.
So we kind of, yeah, she was like, let's not break something if it's not broken. So we decided to continue as it was. And it was amazing having my mum as a dancing teacher. Yeah, it was really incredible. I think some people kind of expect that with that comes a lot of pressure, and the pressure probably more so came from what she had achieved, not from her personally. I kind of got the incredible insight from her.
Yeah, so that kind of does lead into my next question. Like, with your whole family being a part of Irish dance, that must create a very specific and maybe at times difficult dynamic. So part of what we're doing at the Well Winner is unpacking some of those ingrained narratives around what it means to compete and to win. So with dancing, I mean, because your mom was the first ever to win Worlds for Australia, did you ever feel the need to do that or be better or to be the best? Like, I mean, there has to be so much pressure with that. So how did you handle that? Or
I guess there definitely was some sort of pressure that came with that. And I guess people kind of expected me to live up to her standards.
of course.
But in saying that, because the pressure didn't come from home, I actually didn't feel it as much as I probably should have. I think now looking back on it, I was like, wow, that's an immense amount of pressure to carry.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't feel that at the time because there wasn't really a focus on winning. My mum was really, really strong about you work hard and you do the best you can and you work towards your goals. And therefore the pressure wasn't really you have to win. It was let's be the best dancer you can be, and whatever happens along that journey, that's a bonus. So I guess I kind of, yeah, she's great in that sense. I guess we kind of, because the focus wasn't on winning at home and it was about being the best I can be, that's how I kind of handled it. I was always focused towards the job at hand, and I was focused towards, okay, what do I need to fix this week and how am I going to be better with my dancing, as opposed to, oh my gosh, that title's coming up, and feeling the pressure in that sense. I always just focused on being the best I could be.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, she sounds like it was a lot of positive reinforcement and encouragement instead of, putting pressure on one thing. So in our own families or at class or during competitions, practicing, or on tour, as you have with Heartbeat of Home, which is an amazing show, one of my favorites. Much like other parts of life, one thing is pretty universal. There's going to be pressure, which we've talked about. So something we're really emphasizing here is not eliminating that pressure, which, you sat with, you understood it was there, but you tried to focus on other things. It's about becoming more aware of it and then changing and adapting our response to it. So I'm curious, what was your first experience, or what, I know you touched upon this with your mom, but is there anything that stands out specifically when you had a really stressful or pressured situation, and how did you deal with it, whether on tour or competing?
I think probably the moment that kind of comes back to me in being the moment where I felt the pressure with the most was definitely when I returned to dancing in 2016, after I'd been touring for a couple of years. And I think when you're on the way up, it's very easy to kind of keep going when you're so focused on achieving that goal. But once you get there, it's kind of like, I think that's when I started to feel the pressure amount. And when I came back in 2016, I felt this immense amount of pressure, because dancing as a world champion is very different to trying to become one. And I think I probably kind of placed that pressure on myself as well. And that's something I kind of struggled with when coming back, was how to deal with that.
Right.
And I had a lot of injuries, and I kind of had a lot of struggles during that point in time. But I think the one thing that really is really important is just being surrounded with really good people. Your support system and your network is everything. And keeping positive in your own mindset is always very tough, especially when you're under that amount of pressure, but you're always going to need someone to kind of lean on. And I think it's really important to make sure those people surrounding you are positive and supportive as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your mom was your dance teacher, but it was the same for me too. My mom was like my number one support system. Because I felt the support from her, I felt like I could do anything. That's
Absolutely.
so crucial. Okay, so the last big topic I want to get to with you today is your daily motivational journal, the Irish Dance Diary. So if you've been following along with what we've been doing, that's definitely our speed. It's what we're all about. So I want to hear more about that, how you created it, what it's made up of, how it's helped you.
So a couple of years ago, me and my partner Brent, we were just having a discussion, and we kind of came across the fact that there was nothing specific at that point in time for Irish dancers to kind of keep track of their goals, and motivate them, and have like one specific thing that they could go to in noting everything down, and a piece of motivation and tracking how those goals were heading. And I think especially when we were teaching, we were discovering that a lot of dancers, the one thing that they were kind of lacking is they would practice, but they wouldn't really review their goals and how they got there and what was working and what wasn't. So we decided that we would come up with something that would allow dancers to track their goals, motivate them when they were struggling, and whatnot. So the Irish Dance Diary contains stories from different professionals in Irish dance. They kind of share some insight into all different topics. It might be fitness, it might be how they juggle their school with their dancing, a whole different bunch of things. So it starts with stories from them, then it goes into your average diary that kind of has all the dates. It has the Irish dancing competitions, but it also have areas where you can write your goals. You can reflect on how you're doing. You can look forward as to how you want to move forward and whatnot. So it's kind of you go to little journal of
Yeah,
motivation for Irish dancing.
yeah, I love that. When I was competing, quotes on sticky notes were like my big thing, just having them plastered around the wall or taking time to write out quotes and putting them up on the wall and just seeing it. But another big thing for me is, of course, writing it down, but then visualizing that goal. So being
Yeah.
able to see other Irish dancers, see their stories in a journal, and then write your goals next to that. Yeah, it's a perfect idea, and I'm so happy to see that in the Irish
Oh,
dance world.
thank you.
Yeah, of course. So now that we're able to offer our followers a platform to ask you their own questions through the little questions bubble, we're going to highlight a few here at the end that they sent in. The first
Perfect.
one, how did you prepare yourself physically and mentally in the week before a competition? I know the week before was, the most insane feeling. So how did you
Yeah.
handle that?
I think when it came down to the week before a competition, especially for me, it was about the mental side of things. The work had kind of been done up till that point. You were kind of tampering off the training and your body was ready to go, but it was kind of controlling your mind during that point in time.
Mhm.
It's starting about you getting really anxious about the upcoming day. So I think the most important thing I found was really just to stay focused. I did a lot of visualizing. I did a lot of relaxing things like baths and massages, and just really focused on making sure my body was as ready as possible, but my mind was prepared as well. Used to write journals. I used to do mind maps of where I was going to go on the stage to make sure I was prepared in that sense, but it was more so just making sure my mind was nice and controlled and ready for the day ahead.
Yeah, I think that's often undervalued is less focus. And I'm not saying, of course, stop practicing the week before, but I think there should be a lot less focus on the intensity of stamina and driving yourself to, for hours in the studio. That final week should really be about the mind and calming your body down and drinking a lot of water. And it's like the little things that a lot of people don't think about. So that's one of the other things we're trying to bring awareness to here at the Well Winner is nutrition and that mental awareness and calmness. So that brings us to our next question is, what did you normally eat during a competition day?
Oh, good question. I know a lot of people
My
are like,
favorite
I
question.
can't eat. I know a lot of people like, I can't eat on competition day, but I was like the complete opposite. And I think that's also because I was so focused on making sure that my body had all the right, whether it be foods or the right headspace or whatnot, to ensure I could do the job at hand. So I always got up and ate like a banana and had probably oats in the morning. I always made sure I was really filled with nutrition to make sure that I could perform at my best, because I did feel the difference if I hadn't eaten properly or if I wasn't filling my body with good foods. I definitely didn't perform as well.
Yeah, that was a perfect answer. I mean, that's exactly what I want to hear because I was the same way when I competed. I ate all day and there was just constant nourishment. And that's the most important thing on the competition day. And that's another thing we're trying to focus on is how to fuel properly. And even if you're not someone who can eat all day, there are some things that are lighter on your stomach, or how to time it properly if you can only eat once a day. So those are things to look out for everybody watching this video. We'll be sharing some tips and tricks on that too. The final question that I find interesting as somebody outside of dancing, I like hearing this question. What do you think are some great qualities that a dancer should have?
I definitely think one of the most important qualities is a work ethic. I think anyone that has the ability to push themselves and work hard is always going to achieve, whether that's in dancing or whether that's in any attribute of life. The other thing that I think is really important is being coachable. If you're not coachable and you don't have the ability to want to learn and listen to others and improve on how you're doing, you won't be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So I think definitely working hard and being coachable are two really important attributes.
Coachable is yeah, that's a very interesting answer. I've not heard that one often, but it makes total sense. I mean, if you can't listen to your teachers and you don't take feedback in a positive way, then you can't possibly progress forward. So that's a very good answer. So the last part is the most fun part. If you come on Champion Chats, you have to go through a little lightning round of silly questions before we let you go. Just
Okay.
answer whatever comes to mind. So real or flip jig?
Real.
Okay. Sit-ups or push-ups? You're like,
Push-ups.
neither.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee, definitely.
Favorite movie?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I'm not really a movie watcher because I struggle
Okay,
to
favorite
concentrate
TV
for that
show?
long. Oh, okay, that's better. Probably The Blacklist.
Oh, I've heard that's a good one. It's on my
So
list
good.
of binge watching during this whole
You got to
thing.
watch it.
And lastly, favorite dance move?
Hmm. That's a really hard question. Probably anything jumpy or kicky. I like
I can
jumps
see
and kicks.
you're a very jumpy person. I
Yeah.
love jumps. Okay, and our absolute favorite question here is, what's one piece of advice you want to leave with our followers today?
I guess it's probably kind of similar to what I've like kind of mentioned already. Always be the hardest worker in the room. I think if you want to achieve something and you're determined and you work hard, you can always achieve anything you want to achieve. So never let anyone tell you otherwise and always reach towards your goals.
Good answer. I've been saying that a lot because you just honestly, it's a great answer.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Ceili. I'm speaking on behalf of my entire team at the Well Winner, Alana, Heather, and myself when I say it means so much that you took the time to have this conversation with me today. And for everyone watching, keep your eyes out on our stories for more installations of Champion Chat series. And of course, that little question bubble so you guys can all submit your very own questions for our next guest. Thank you so much again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me and congratulations on what you're doing.
Thank you so much.